All right, hey everyone, welcome in. Today we're diving deep into something I think we all struggle with, at least a little bit, right? Work-life balance.
Oh, yeah.
We've got some great excerpts here from a piece called Achieving Work-Life Balance.
Okay.
And the goal here is like not just to kind of skim the surface,
Right.
but to actually walk away with like some real tactics, some things you can actually put into practice to find that sweet spot between like absolutely killing it at work
Yeah.
and, actually having some semblance of a life outside of work.
Totally. And I think that's like the key takeaway here, right? It's not some like magical thing that only a few people can achieve.
Right, exactly.
It's really about like taking those practical steps to make sure your life like works for you.
Yes. And the source kind of hits on this right away by saying balance is key to success. But I think
Yeah.
it's worth like pausing on that word success for a second, right?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't necessarily mean like, climbing the corporate ladder
Right.
or making the most money or whatever.
It's more holistic than that.
Yeah, it's about feeling like fulfilled, I think, and energized, and not just like in one area of your life, but across the board.
Absolutely. And that's where I think it gets really interesting because we're seeing more and more research
Yeah.
coming out now. Like there was this fascinating study from UC Irvine
Okay.
that showed people who actually prioritize their well-being are more engaged at work and like more productive.
That's interesting.
It's almost counterintuitive, right? You would think,
Yeah.
like, oh, if I want to get ahead, I got to just work all the time. I got to grind. But it turns out that like actually taking time for yourself makes you better at what you do.
Wow. Okay. So how do we actually do that then?
Yeah.
Like, how do we put this into practice? Because, I think so many of us like fall into this trap of thinking,
Right.
okay, well, if I want to, be successful, I got to work all the time. I got to sacrifice hobbies. I got to, sleep less. And this source talks about a few things like managing your time, setting boundaries, and making time for what matters.
Yeah.
Let's kind of break those down one by one,
Okay.
starting with like time management.
Sure.
What are some strategies like beyond just, make a to-do list?
Yeah.
What can people actually do?
Well, one thing that I've found really helpful is this idea of time blocking.
Okay.
So instead of just like having a list of tasks, you actually schedule them. You say like, okay, from 9:00 to 10:00, I'm going to work on this.
Okay.
And then from 10:00 to 11:00, I'm going to focus on this.
Gotcha.
It forces you to be more realistic about what you can get done
Right
and
on.
prevents things from like bleeding into each other.
I like that. Yeah. It kind of forces you to actually look at your time
Yeah.
and be mindful of it. I'm also curious about, this idea of setting boundaries, especially I feel like in today's world, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's so connected all the time.
Always on.
You get emails at 9:00 p.m., people are working through lunch. How do we actually create boundaries that stick, that people respect?
Well, I think it really comes down to like being firm with yourself, but also with others.
Okay.
So that might mean like communicating really clearly what your work hours are
Okay.
to colleagues, maybe like turning off notifications
Yeah.
outside of those times. Even something as simple as like having a dedicated workspace, even if you're at home,
Right.
can help you mentally like leave work.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, because you can physically be somewhere, but still like mentally be at work.
Exactly.
And I think, that kind of ties into this next point about figuring out what truly matters to you.
Right.
Because, it's easy to get so caught up in like the day-to-day
Oh, yeah,
that you kind of forget about the things that actually bring you joy.
for sure.
Like how do you even start to figure out what those things are?
Yeah, it does take like a conscious effort, especially if you've been in that like go mode for a while.
Right.
But one thing I like to suggest is to think back to like what you enjoyed as a kid.
Oh,
Like what were you naturally drawn to? Or just try setting aside some time each week
Yeah.
just for like unstructured exploration. You might rediscover, you love painting or you love hiking or you love spending time with, your family.
those things might have fallen by the wayside.
Exactly.
So it's almost like rediscovering those passions.
Exactly.
And then actually like scheduling them in.
Yeah.
Not just saying, oh yeah, I should do that.
Right. Make it a priority.
Actually putting it on the calendar.
Yeah.
And when you do that, I think that's when you really start to experience that, what the source called like unlocking potential.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just about feeling happier. It's about that enhanced focus.
Yeah.
That reduced stress, like you were saying. I've even read things about increased creativity when you actually have a little bit more balance in your life.
And those benefits, they spill over into every area,
Right, yeah. So it's not just about one specific area.
Yeah.
It affects everything.
Exactly.
So I guess to kind of wrap this all up, it sounds like achieving work-life balance, it's not about finding this one perfect formula.
Right.
It's about, it's like you said, it's a journey, not a destination, right?
Exactly.
It's about being mindful of your time. It's about setting boundaries. It's about figuring out what truly matters to you.
Yeah.
And then actually doing those things.
Making it happen.
Putting them into practice.
Yeah.
And so as we kind of close out here, I want to leave you with this thought. Imagine that you could dedicate just 1 hour each day to something that really nourishes your soul.
Okay.
What would that look like? And how do you think it would change your overall sense of balance? That's something to think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
We'll catch you next time.